Does Nick Saban deserve a pat on the back for learning how to text and email?
Okay, this is interesting that he's got some time and he's spending that time learning and trying to ward off the technological vagaries of age where we get to a certain age and they're younger than I am, but there are certain times I feel embarrassed by how much more people are technologically savvy than I am. So Nick Saban is learning during this break, and I'm telling you guys, the NFL draft is going to be an amazing, fun, awful experience because you've got these reports of IT guys don't want to go into Mike McCarthy's house, and Mike McCarthy doesn't want the IT guys in his house. All the while, Dave Gettleman's not going to understand anything that's happening on Zoom or anywhere else. So these guys are a lot. They're built lopsided. And once they get to a certain age, it's funny that guys like Saban haven't even partaken in the internet over the last 20 years.
Is there any chance, by the way, that the Cincinnati Bengals don't have terrible Wi-Fi? I mean, that's the franchise that was like reusing jock straps. And now I feel like they're going to face a technological hurdle on the infrastructure side of things. But with Nick Saban in specific, something that I found really funny was that, like, if you're a guy who has not used email or text at this point, like, that's just a flex. You are so rich and powerful that you will have, in this case, it turns out to be his wife in your service to do this. I have questions about why Dan LeBatard is still on AOL, because one is an old guy flexing, the other is an old guy who should know better.
It's a good question, and I will just tell you that there are a whole assortment of journalists out there of my age bracket. Joe Buck is guilty of this. Bill Simmons is guilty of this. There are a whole lot of people AOL guilty out there. Don't try and shame me about that. It's journalists of a certain age.
Does it still tell you that you have mail? Does it still have those sound effects? At least
pay extra for that, Dan. I've often wondered about this. Also, Dan has like 5 email addresses and 5 phone numbers, and you never know which one is going to respond to you at 3 a.m. But that's neither here nor there. What I found most interesting about the Saban story was what Pablo mentioned, which is not that he hasn't been using email, but that his wife has been doing it for him, right? She is the unsung hero of this story. She is probably owed thousands of dollars in back wages for her unpaid labor. His players can relate. Now, his comments did remind me of Bill Belichick, right? When he pulls his whole, I'm a Luddite. I don't use Snapface or your newfangled analytics. You know, that whole old man routine. I don't buy it for a second. Not that he doesn't do it. I'm sure he doesn't. But I don't think it's about being a Luddite. I think it's about controlling access to you. In fact, it's kind of brilliant. Makes me want to do it too.
By the way, one thing that Dan was ahead of the curve on, as we take him to task for all of his technological incompetence, the FaceTime. Dan is the #1 FaceTimer. And now we live in a world where FaceTiming is standard operating procedure, which is horrifying to reflect on.
It's so true. I would get a FaceTime call from Dan. It's always like a little bit too close. He's in his car. I'm worried he's going to get in an accident. And I don't know if I have to pick up, because if I don't pick up, who knows when the next time I'm going to hear from Dan.
Pioneer, technological pioneer.
You'll get a FaceTime from Dan at like 5:40 a.m. and the angle of the camera looks like this. Like, hey!
I always get him when he's in his car.
Speaking of FaceTime, here's me and my father just yesterday talking on FaceTime. This is how, he's in his bed. And of course, that's me shirtless.
Dan, are you in the bathroom there?
That's me. Yeah, that's me up there.
Wow.
And that's also me up there. Yeah, that's that baby is. I don't know. Is that me or my brother? No, that's me. Yeah, that's me. My brother drew that.
Dan was wearing more clothing as a baby than he is as an adult.
That's right.
Also, somehow everything about Dan has changed except for the exact shape of his face.
Thank you. You can barely get that out. That barely got out of your face, but you're so right. You're so right about that. How is it possible that my cheeks still have that much baby fat in them?
It's like he's been sewing nuts in them for 50 years.
Oh, for the love of God, shut up.
In Dan's defense, it's hard to find good angles when you're dealing with a trapezoid.